Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to another Cowboys and Indian-less podcast, because yet again he's on his travels and we have no idea where he is. Any ideas where he is, Stu?
Yeah, and he leading a pack of people up the mountain, up Everest.
He could be a Sherpa. He was
He's
mountain
a lead
climbing
Sherpa,
last
isn't he?
week, but we've got no idea where he is. Obviously, we've got our old friend back here, JB. Good afternoon, John.
How are we doing? You right, chaps?
Yeah, we can see you, hear you, John, but you're not moving.
I'm here, but it may drift in and out, so
okay.
I may just drop the camera in a bit just to make sure.
Not a problem. Guys, a great afternoon. There's quite a few subjects I need to get through today. And the first thing for me, I've got to say this one first, because if I say the other one first, Stu's going to kill me. I'd like to say congratulations to Birmingham, who have already been promoted to the Championship. And I think they're going to be one of these clubs that go all the way. I think they're going to go through this league, and I think they're going to come through next year's league. They've got a lot of money behind them. And like everyone, the golden egg is the Premier League. And I think their mishap is the infrastructure with the Birmingham Council, who are skint at the moment, who's going to make a tunnel from the railway links, which will go all the way to the ground. Now, the second thing...
The thing is with Birmingham, they can have all the money in the world, mate, but they're not going to be allowed to spend it unless they actually have it coming in.
Yeah, but don't forget, at the moment, they're averaging 21,000 fans in the what I call the old second division. I'm never going to get used to the whatever, would you call it under the Championship now? You know what I mean? And if they build a 60,000 seat stadium, will they be able to fill a 60? Considering that they've only got 21,000 fans average, will they be able to build and fill a 60,000 seat stadium? And
good luck to them.
Yeah, I agree. Do you believe that the national stadium should be in England, just diversing just a little bit, or not?
What do you mean?
We've got Wembley in London. The middle of the country really is Birmingham, innit? And I do think really it should be fair. I used to love a day out when I used to go away games, so it wouldn't have bothered me to go watch England games.
That's why I do not agree with semi-finals being played at Wembley.
I agree.
Semi-finals were always played in a neutral venue, and they were always places like Villa Park or somewhere like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with you. Nick. Are you there, John?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just going to just be on vocals rather than camera.
What's your opinion on Birmingham, John?
I think it's good that the fact that someone's getting bankrolled, but obviously with as you say, with the council situation, the way it is up there at the moment, it kind of does put a spanner in the works for them. In regards to them getting a 60,000 stadium, I mean, when you look back when in the Premier League, you're saying they're averaging about 21,000 now. Well, they average, I don't know what their average was when they were in the Premier League last time. So is it going to draw any more people in, or is it going to become like a lot of other clubs and just be like day trippers, day out sort of thing to a new stadium?
Do you know something, John? I mean, we spoke, I don't know if anyone's seen the James video. We spoke about the change in football, and as Stuart's mentioned, the corporate packages and how it mucks up the atmosphere on these games. Is it really important now that if we need corporate packages to fill a stadium, that we shouldn't have them? Or do you think it should just be diehard fans constantly? John?
I think you've got to have a mixture, but you can't forget where the games come from. Do you know what I mean? The football back in the day was always the working man's game. Always has been, always should be, And I mean, the trouble is now, the average working man now is getting priced out of the game. You think if you want to take your son or daughter to a game of football now, you're talking it's going to cost you 150 quid, maybe 200 quid, including food, drink, travel, ticket. It's not a cheap day out.
And a shirt for your kid.
Joe, what do you think?
Well, I personally, what I would like to see, to bring it back, we need to do away with all seater stadiums. This is your problem, right? What it should be, in my opinion, lower tiers should all be terrace, standing. Your upper tiers can be your corporate, can be your seated areas. You can have an area for children specifically. But I think your lower tiers should be all terrace, no seating. Then that way you would fill it. You'd get more people in. You would get more because you're not going to get, for want of a better phrase that everybody keeps using, is you're not going to get your pork prawn sandwich brigade wanting to stand in the terraces with a load of geezers shouting and singing and chanting. They're going to want to be sitting up in their boxes and that's what I would do away with all seater stadiums, because that was the start. That was the start of the downfall of your grounds, getting rid of.
Yeah, but if you look into that, Stu, first of all, they brought in fences, didn't they? Which no one realised what was going to happen at Hillsborough at the time. And
your volume's
no
gone,
matter how
Duggy.
busy it was, we went in, and there was a report there saying that they all-seater stadium, one, would stop the violence, and secondly, it would stop another Hillsborough. You know what happened up there. And obviously, what happened at ISIL, but that, I think the state of the stadium was half what caused the ISIL. So I'm a bit half and half on that. I think the safety aspect, especially the hooliganism of the football's gone, and it's a lot safer to take kids now. Hell of a lot safer.
Yeah,
should there be some standing? I do think there should be some, but I don't think it should be, like you say, all lower and all the top. It's a difficult one, but I think for the atmosphere, it was always better when you stood, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is what I suggested to you when we done the one with James. I noticed a change at the bowling ground, Upton Park. Yeah, I noticed a change there when it went all seater. I was always South Bank, and it was terraces always, and then it went all seater, and it turned into the Bobby Moore stand. It cut after people for a start. You're not getting after people that you were getting in there, and you started getting in different people. You didn't have your, for want of a better phrase, your die-hard fans standing there. Also, you can't.
Could you not think, as we age, Steve, as we age, as we are? I mean, John's a bit younger than us. I think.
Yeah, but you can't even sing anymore. I mean, some of the songs, right? It's a real. I'm going to swear, it fucking pisses me off, right? West Ham are going to be charged and done for not controlling their fans on the away fixture at Chelsea, right? Because they were singing Chelsea Rent Boys, right? Now, West Ham are going to be charged with not controlling their fans. How can West Ham control the fans on an away match? It shouldn't be down to West Ham for a start, right? But also, they're going to go through all the video footage and they're going to identify the people singing and they're going to give them lifelong bans. This is a lot of your problem now. You can't have banter anymore. Yes, some of the songs were pretty near the mark and some, maybe they did balance on the other way. But it was all banter. That's what it was. It was singing. It was chanting. Most songs you can't sing anymore. And it's took that element away. It's took tribalism. That's what it was. Football was tribalism. It was a working man's release, and it was tribalism. That's what it was, and it's not anymore. It's all like you're going to get onto, saying about another club in a minute. You're going to say thank you to, well done and all the rest of it. But we'll get onto that, and when you mention it, I don't think you should be.
No, but listen, Stu. I've always thought some of the songs, many when I used to go like you did, there was a young Millwall lad. Like he went on the lines to get away with some West Ham fans. I don't remember it, and he got run over by a train. And then the West Ham fans started singing something. What happened to him? My friend got killed, as you know, in Madrid. And then I went over Millwall with some friends of mine, and then they started singing "West Ham fan is dead," blah 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 blah. And I walked out. You know what I mean? I walked out, but I do think songs like the Busby Babes and stuff, I don't think they were necessary. Do you know what I mean? I just think there's things in football.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but it was all part of trying to wind up the opposing fans. It was all banter.
I do think some songs are funny. you know, and certain. I mean, mate, I've laughed my head off at some of the songs that people make. I mean, the bloody the one before the Conference League, when all of a sudden there was loads of West Ham's fans singing, "I sold my car to Lucas Paquetá." You know, I mean, you couldn't get that out your head for God knows how long, dear. What's your opinion of the songs,
It's the
John?
quick-wittedness. That's what's gone. Do you know what I mean? It's like I say, you got to stand there and think before you even say anything now in the ground.
Yeah. And this translates to the pitch, and this is what Gary Neville was saying in his podcast. Right, he was really having a pop about the Manchester derby, how insipid it was, too nice, for want of a better phrase. There was no. It wasn't a Manchester. It was no getting stuck in, you know, sliding tackles, get out of the way.
With that as well, Stu, don't
they
you
look
think
at somebody wrong, and the ref out straight away with a card.
This is half the thing. The passion's been
Hold on,
taken
John.
out
Give it a minute, John. Let's Stu finish.
As Gary Neville said, after the game, he said they're all walking around the pitch, both sets of players and opposing managers, all cuddling one another, shaking hands. That's rubbish. That shouldn't be happening. He said, in Man United, done sort of like a lap of honour. A lap of honour. What for? For that insipid game you've just played. There's no passion. There's no passion. You're not allowed to show passion anymore. It used to be a contact sport. It's not a contact sport anymore. It's turning into a load of wishy-washy, namby-pambies, like, oh, I'm going to take my ball and go home because you kicked me on the shin. That's what it is now. I get no fun out of going to football anymore, right? So, you know, and I don't go anyway now because of what happened, you know, with my son. But it was just boring. Football's boring. Football is boring now. There's no London derbies are not the same anymore. I know there's loads of teams in London, so there's loads of London derbies. But like the North London derby, there's no passion in that anymore. The Merseyside derby, yes, they had a bit of controversy at the end. But apart from that, the game was nothing. It was boring. There's no passion anymore. You're not allowed to show passion anymore.
Joe, let's come back to them. We've got a couple of points, which the Gary Neville one and the other team, you're right. John, what's your thoughts, mate?
No, I agree with Stu. The passion in the game's gone. You know, at the end of the day, how many times you used to watch on the pitch and you had like one of your hard men go crunching through somebody and the fans would get right behind it. And like now that's gone. It's killed on the pitch. It's killed the terraces as well at the same time. And it works both ways. When the fans are getting riled up, the players started chucking some challenges about.
Yeah.
So it works both ways. And that's what we always say. You know, the passion feeds onto the pitch from the fans.
Yep.
And the same thing. It's got to be a bit of passion on the pitch to get the fans going. And I say, because now, I'm not being funny, as you know, we go and watch them. Well, I don't go and watch them anymore, but you go to West Ham, there's no passion. There's nothing. There's nothing there that makes me want to go to that stadium anymore.
No, you're right. The players don't show no passion.
But John, that's not the stadium. Let's go back a bit, right? When we talked about the tackles, Stu, right? No one loved like me more. There's someone for me, I told you long ago, like who never got the credit he deserved. Like he used to fly in the tackles, and I'd always have him in my team at left back would be Frank Lampard Senior. Like I loved him when I was a kid. The clubs voted in VAR. It weren't the fans. The clubs wanted it. The Premier League wanted it, right? They got it. So once they got it, things can go back and be looked at retrospectively. Do I think it's right? I mean, we seem to have more injuries now than we ever did. I mean, you've said to me, Stu, the players are too fit now. Maybe that's why they get it. But I do think they should be able to go back. And if someone's conned the ref, if they can go back and look at something, they should be going back to people that's conned the ref. Now, the game's going that way, supposedly, to protect the players, extend their careers. The fitter they get, the faster they run, the more injuries they're going to get. I'm one of those, like you are, Stu, that don't believe playing one game a week is a lot. If you get into Europe, which most teams want to aspire to do, they want to play in the Champions League, then don't moan when you play 2 games a week. Because they say we want to go and play in the Champions League.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah. It's just too nice.
John, you've played football, John, at a really high level. I mean, a really high level just before getting into the Prem. Yeah. Do you think the pace of the game has changed so much that it's causing more injuries?
You know, I think the pace of the game's died. I think the pace is gone. This goes back to a conversation we was having like a bit earlier about how rigid teams and how slow and possession based football's become. And it's like, I don't think you see the same energy in players anymore. And I think the trouble is when they do need to sprint or do need to run, you do find they get more injuries because they're like peak racehorses. You know what I mean? They're only asked to sprint and do what they need to do when they need to do it. Whereas, as I say, when they used to play on in boggy pitches, they used to train on those pitches. They used to play on those pitches all the time. So they'd have to work harder. They'd have to train harder. Nowadays, because there's no resistance in a pitch, do you know what I mean? They don't get into the muddy quagmires and that. And they're not being funny. I mean, I don't know what percentage there are, but I bet if you have a look through the lower leagues and the pitches, the quality of the pitches in, the non-leagues and that, I bet the injuries are a lot less than what they are in the Premier League.
Well, they don't get paid, John, do they?
No, but it's not just it's not just that, but I just think where the resistance is safe from the mud of the pitch, the training on hard or wetter pitches, I think that builds a player.
Yeah.
Did you want to, John, when you was at your peak, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like John really played at a high level, and I've got to tell you, it's for another story. And his cousin holds the record for playing the most Premier League games. If anyone can work out who that is, please put it in the comments. Did you prefer to train or did you prefer to play games?
You always want to play, but you've got to be in the right frame of mind for training. If you're not in the right frame of mind for training, you ain't going to turn up and play a decent game. You train day.
So is there a lot more psychology in the game? You're saying
there is now,
more than we know.
100% now. I think there is a lot more now. And
why is there more now, John? Why?
I think it's because there's so much money in the game, and I think again it comes round again that money's ruined the whole perspective of football in the Premier League. Because as you say, it's all commercial. Yeah. Let's say from your chat yesterday, you were saying the terminology too much money in football. I don't like that term because it's wrong. It's kind of a corporate. There's too much focus on the corporate and what the money brings in, not what it gives on the pitch.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think I sent it to you earlier, Doug, that thing that Johan Cruyff said, and he died nearly 10 years ago. And he always said that the most important part of football is that fans go home happy. It's their time off and you should give them something to enjoy. Football is now all about the money and their problems with the values within the game, and this is sad.
We had this yesterday, John.
That was 10 years ago, nearly. So what's it like now? Do you know what I mean? When I say somebody turns in their grave, players like him, Bobby Moore, Pele, Maradona, do you know what I mean? They never got millions. They played for the love of the game. Yeah. They never played on decent pitches. They played on quagmires, and they were that good. You never see them suffering with injuries because they weren't sort of peak fitness. Do you know what I mean? The players now, I think half of it's psychological with injuries. I really do.
Right, that's for another day, John. There's a couple of subjects I want to go through while you're on, John. So if you've got time, John, I'd love to come back with the injuries and the pace of the game.
Yeah, no.
But now, in the red corner, right, in the red corner, wanting to wish congratulations to Arsenal beating Real Madrid 3-0 last night is me, the Duggy boy. In the blue corner, I've no idea why you don't want to congratulate Arsenal. It's my own mate, Stu. Why don't you want to congratulate us?
One simple reason. I'm an old-fashioned football fan. They are not West Ham. Why do I want to congratulate, basically, an enemy? Why do I want to congratulate them? I'm not in.
They're a British team, aren't
they?
they?
No. But this is the problem. This is what's causing the problem today. And like what I said just now, what Gary Neville was saying about the Manchester derby, it's too fucking nice. They walk around cuddling one another, shaking hands. No, it's bullshit. Stop all this nice malarkey. Get out there, put a bit of passion up your arse, and play for the badge and fucking tackle. Get in and do the business. Stop all this.
What has that got to do with Arsenal beating Real Madrid last night?
Why should I congratulate Arsenal?
When you was a kid, right? I don't know. I mean, I lived in Wapping, right? My mum had this old red Roberts radio. It had white buttons on the top. It was red and gold braid speaker. And at the time, me and my friends, there was no TV. We didn't even have a TV. Right? We certainly didn't have a Gulliver. But we would sit in a porch in a place called Iliad House in Prewsome Street. And I'd put the radio on a Wednesday. Invariably, it was Leeds, Arsenal, Wembley. I always wanted them to win, Stu. Even though I was a West Ham fan, I've always wanted.
Well, this
I
is
don't know
what I
what
said
it
to you
is.
yesterday. When I was a kid growing up, I didn't really fall in love with West Ham till I went to see them in 1975. Before then, I was just a lover of football, and I followed football. And yes, admittedly, back then you always wanted to see the English teams do well in Europe, but that wasn't because you liked the team. It was because, now this is going to sound controversial, and I'll probably get slagged off for this. Back then, the players you had were all Englishmen. Now, you can't say English now because it's racist to say bloody English, but they weren't British, they were Englishmen, right? And they were Englishmen playing against the Germans or playing against the French, playing against the Italians. So you supported your own countrymen against. I didn't support Chelsea. I supported the players playing in Europe, playing against the Germans or Nottingham Forest, because it was predominantly English players. They were born and bred in this country, and that's how it was. Back then, you could only have I think it was 3 foreigners. I think you were allowed.
Weren't it?
Two.
Weren't it?
Two.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your opinion, John?
I'm with Stu, to be fair. And I mean, it's like I say, I mean, having the conversation that I had with Mark Phillips the other day, he loves to see a young English homegrown talent come through the club.
Exactly.
Not necessarily just English. Sorry,
hold on, Stu. Just give John a bit.
A young British player come through the club. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing better than seeing a homegrown player. Yeah. Let's say you get a whole team of them. That's what I said. It never happened because there's just, again, goes back to there's too much money in football, and you get the foreigners come over, and of course, not being funny, some of them are a lot better players than what the English players are. There's no doubt in that. But it's like you say, when you look back to I remember, I can't remember how old I was probably only about 11 or so when United won the Cup Winners' Cup. I remember they had like Jim Leighton and goal, players like that. And I think they had 2 foreigners. And it used to be, as you say, the 2 foreigner rule. And then they made Welsh, Scottish and Irish foreign as well. And like you're sitting there thinking, well, if you tried doing that now in the Premier League, it'd be dead. It'd be a dead duck in the water.
Didn't the Bosman League muck that up, though, John? The Bosman ruling at one point with freedom of movement. When that started, that brought in the rules, weren't it, with travelling through Europe?
You look a lot of Premier League teams now. They come out, and I watch a lot of football. I do with Darren and Jim. They come over. We watch a lot of football, and I can say, if we watch 10 games, I can honestly say at least 7 of them games, right? At least one of them teams out of them 7 games will not have one English player or British born, so for the want of being PC these days, wouldn't have a British born player on that park. Every single one's a foreigner. Now that's where the passion's gone. That's why you get no passion at your London derby, why you got no passion in your Manchester derby, your Merseyside derby, because you haven't got any homegrown players on that pitch anymore. It's full up with bloody foreigners. Right? Yes, the foreigners bring excitement to the game, and they've drawn money into the game, but it's gone too far. There should be a limit. 5 foreigners on the park at any one time. The rest of your team on the park should be 6 homegrown players, whether they're Irish, Welsh, Scottish, English, it doesn't matter. They're homegrown, right? So they should be they count. Right, you should have 6 against 5. That's what it should be, and you'd start to see some of this passion come back in. As John was saying, you want to see kids come through. You don't see.
But Stu, don't you think, Stu? Do you not think, right? And mate, I come along and I watched the youth games when we had Lampard, Cole, Carrick. I used to go to the youth games. I went to the Youth Cup final when we played Liverpool. If they was good enough, they would get it. I think the problem we've seen,
Yeah, but they
Stu,
don't get a
and
chance to
discuss
be
this.
good enough anymore.
No, but Stu, what we've worked out is, and you said it in one of the shows, that the managers, if they not getting the results, they've got a 2-year lifespan.
Yeah,
And I think managers are just too scared to put them in, Stu. They'd rather go on by. Do you remember Alan Sugar called Carlos Kickable? Do you remember?
Yeah. I mean, we've got Ollie
They're
Scholes,
too scared, and they've not got the time to develop them, Stu.
Yeah. We've got Ollie Scholes, who's made the break as left back, into the team, left back, left wing back, whatever you want to call him, right? He's got in. But come the summer transfer window, if they find a foreigner on a free transfer or one for 10, 15, 20 million, who could be, say, a year or two older than Scholes, plays in that same position, they're going to go and buy him. So that means Scholes then is going to get pushed out again, pushed away to bring in that foreign player. That's where it's wrong. That is wrong.
I don't think this is going to happen under Potter, Stu. I don't. I think if Potter, that's why we had this with James yesterday. If they're going to be good enough under Potter, they're going to get in, right? And I hope Freddie Potts comes back. I hope he comes back. Do you think, John, we've got good enough players to play in the West Ham first team now?
There's players that are good enough to be there. Do you know what I mean? As you said, I mean, again, goes back to the end of the eye with Mark Phillips, and he said exactly the same. There's players there that could hold their own. You know, you got George Urphy, you got Freddie Potts, you've got, Caelan Casey. He's on the verge. You know what I mean? All right, it's a tougher place for him to play at the back. But do you know what I mean? You've got, Lewis Orford. He's pushing the front side.
Yeah.
So yes, there's players good enough, and there's, as Mark said, there's players in the younger leagues. That's what he said. They push them up a couple of ages. So if they're like an under 15 or under 16 and they're good, they'll challenge them by chucking them into the under 18s. You know what I mean? See whether they sink or swim. And if they don't, they just drop them back down again, and then they try them again. 5-6 games later, just to see if they're up for it. Then, because sometimes it is just it's a shock to the system. So you can get a youngster that comes into the side and he might freeze because it's the shock of shit. I'm in the first team, because that happens. You kind of, it's that big eye opener. I've made it, but sometimes they freeze in that limelight.
Leicester the other night, they fielded a 15-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're good enough, give him a crack. Why not?
I think Rooney was only 16. We played Paul Allen in the
He couldn't even have the sponsor on his shirt because he's 15. No. He's under 18. Yeah. He couldn't. So, but he ain't going to last because now Leicester are going to go down, and if he's that good, he's going to be bought up.
He'll be swallowed up in another big club and put through their academy.
Yeah, you're going to get one of the bigger clubs swoop in, buy him, and he'll be thrown in their academy, and you won't ever hear of him again.
Guys, I've got to tell you, right, whenever I watch a football game, right, I don't know whether it's just me, right, but I always want one team. Don't matter who I'm watching, I want one to. There's certain teams I never want to win. I always remember when West Ham played Blackpool in the playoffs, the playoff final at Wembley.
Yeah.
And we went out, my mum, Julie, my missus, Jack, we all worked, we had bubble machines, we was walking around town and that, but there was no other West Ham fans. Anyway, we beat Blackpool 1-0, didn't we? And we stayed out all day. And on the night time, Chelsea played, I can't think who they played in the Champions League final. And I was the only person in the whole of the bar of about 40, 50 people that wanted Chelsea to win. And there was all Brits in it. And I couldn't understand it. I went, why don't you want Chelsea to win? I mean, Drogba scored in the last 5 minutes, made it 1-0, and then he got the winning penalty. I suppose it's just the way we are. But even if I don't know, I always used to go to different games. If I couldn't get to a West Ham away game when I was younger, I would go to watch Orient if I could, nearly up there. They've still got a slim chance of making it.
I used to stay local myself if I didn't go.
Yeah, I'd go and watch Daggers, but I'd go and watch Spurs. I'd go and watch Arsenal.
Yeah, well, you did, because I threw a block for your coach winner, didn't I?
No, that was when we went Bishop Stortford and Dartford.
Yeah.
Right, guys, as you can see, Stuart's in a right bad mood. I think it's the time of the month. I'm
not.
We are going to move on.
I'm passionate about the game.
Mate, but that's what we want. We want passionate people on it. Like, what's the point of coming on here and me and you talking beforehand and getting on? And that's why John's on, to give a different opinion. Now, my bugbear at the moment, boys, I can't believe we've done 30 minutes and we've really not got on to what I really wanted to talk about. Stuart, could you tell us about the interview you see the other day with Gary Neville, please?
Well, I've already basically said it. He was just basically having a pop about how the Manchester derby was insipid, and there's no passion for it. There's no, it's all, and as he said there, it's all sideways, backwards, sideways, backwards. He said so it's not just West Ham, it's through the board, right? And he said all the other Premier League teams, oh dear, what was the actual phrase? But basically it was a case of all the other Premier poor men Man Cities. Like,
so he's blaming Guardiola for the state.
Yeah, he's blaming Guardiola. He's blaming Guardiola for it. And to be honest, yeah, I do. I blame Guardiola. All this passing out from the back malarkey. We didn't have none of it. Goalkeepers, sweepers. You're a goalkeeper. Stand in your area. Use your hands. That's what they're there for. Save the bloody ball from going in the net. Stop trying to dribble it out. Stop standing there with the ball under your feet, rocking it backwards and forwards to a defender. He gives it back to another defender. He gives it back. Stop all that. Stop it. It's killing the game. Do
you think, John, that Guardiola football has killed the Premiership or improved it?
When he first come in, it improved it because obviously it was a completely different outlook on how the game was played. So everyone knew what he was doing at Barcelona. Everyone knew he'd done at Bayern Munich, and then of course he brought it over to the Prem. But where it's killed the game, and I agree with Stu, is that it's kind of every manager has gone and replicated what he's trying to do. So the thing with doing that is it reduces the diversity of different tactics that teams are playing now. So, of course, the way that, West Ham's 100% prime example. We always used to be fluid attacking football. You know what I mean? We win a game 5-4 or lose a game 4-3. Do you know what I mean? That was the West Ham football that we all loved and knew. But where they've all tried to copy the Guardiola style of football now, it's kind of it's caused like a rigid system where there's no like creativity or no brilliance in any players anymore.
Yeah, but John, what I don't understand is right. Not everybody has to play the Guardiola type football. Do you remember when Jose Mourinho was successful?
But they will.
Everyone wants to.
When Jose Mourinho went to Chelsea, Jose Mourinho he started winning a load of games, right? But in the end, people sussed him, right? And he would play. Do you remember, John? He started playing narrow down the channels, what I'm going to call the right half, left half, inside right, inside left, whatever you want to call it. And they would come in and they would play little balls in to the winger inside the left-hand side of the penalty. They was used all the time, the inside rights and the outside, the inside left and the inside, whatever you want to call them, right? And then he got sussed. They sussed him, right? And he played very, very narrow. A lot of his ball was counter-attacking football. Now, what I can't understand with the City football, if you've not got the quality of player that City have, who seem to find space, right? Which I always think in football, if you find space, good movement will find you space, and space will give you time on the ball, right? If you're not got the quality of players, then a high press nullifies the Guardiola type of football. Because if you haven't got, and I think that's what's happened a lot, which, my real reason for doing this.
This is what Gary Neville was saying as well, that the Man City team is not as good as what it was a couple of years ago. De Bruyne he's been one of the best midfielders we've ever seen in the Premier League, right? But he's lost it. He's not that player anymore, right? They haven't got them players anymore. That they've got old. They've had to ship them out, and the players they bring in are not as good as what they had before. And this is what they can't understand what they got to do. And this is what Gary Neville said.
But Stu, one person can break that. If you look at the difference between Arsenal last night, and how they've been for the last couple of months, was Saka. And you can't believe the difference one player makes. And the difference with Man City this year is they've not had Rodri.
Well, I would have thought it was down to
organise the team. Yeah, exactly. But he can organise the team. We've said this before. You can have the players, but you need someone there who's going to rule. You need a linchpin. If you look at the little 1-2s, call them tippy-tappies, whatever you want, that Saka does with Odegaard, and it frees it up. But what it also does, it pulls the defenders away. You know, I look at Haaland and someone on 500,000 a week. You know, he's not a good footballer, but what he does, he does well. But because he's got De Bruyne, because he's got Foden, you look at all the England squads. On paper, you look at the golden generation we had with Beckham, Lampard, and all them. We had great players, but they couldn't make a team. You know, we never seemed to play with Lampard and Gerrard. So you need a team. You also need one person who's going to general that and you can link on. And I think Man City this year have missed Rodri, and they would have been a different team with Rodri in the team.
Yeah.
John, what's your opinion?
Yes, I agree with that. But as I say, I mean, you've got to have the players who are gifted enough and got the technical abilities to fit into those systems. You know, and like I say, where West Ham have tried that this season, they've become kind of like robotic, the players. You know what I mean? That is all they want to do, or all they can do. And they don't want to be spontaneous and try something different. So it's kind of like the over-reliance of possession, you know, without the attacking threat anymore. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it means the game becomes sterile and it becomes so boring to watch. And I think that's what Gary Neville's trying to say. You know what I mean? The game's just, it's not as fast and not as, again, I refer to what I said earlier.
That's a brilliant way of saying it, John. The game's sterile.
It is.
No, but what's the name, John? When Alex Ferguson rebuilt the team the second time around, when he relied on Rooney and Ronaldo and all that, all these become counter-attacking quick football. You know, so like this is
the difference. It's the quick attacking football.
But we had, I remember going back to Dave Bassett when he was at Wimbledon, and everyone moaned at them because they played the eyeball. But he'd come on a programme and he went, look, most goals are scored within 3 touches of leaving the goalkeeper. So then you had everyone started playing the old ball. It's like everyone's calling for Fulkrug to be in the West Ham team. That's okay. But if they're going to lump the ball up to him, then when he gets it, you're going to need someone to run on for that second phase of ball if he wins the header or he brings it down.
We've got 2 players that can do that in Bowen and Kudus.
So this is what you guys said yesterday on your chat. And I mean, I agree with what you guys were saying. But the one thing that we don't do, which is what you'll find if West Ham done it more, they'd score a lot more goals. You've actually used proper wingers, a right footer on the right side and a left foot on the left side. Yeah. And you bang crossing that box, Fulkrug would have a field day.
I agree.
There ain't many defenders in there or in this Premier League that will out jump him or out muscle him.
John, do you believe though? I always think you need 2 up front, right?
Yeah, you
One
do.
is to pull defender away. If you see what's happened with Bowen and Kudus, Kudus's loss of form is because there's 2 or 3 players on him, as they do with Bowen. But because we play so far back that when we attack, everyone's in our half. Everyone's just outside our penalty area, right? You need to leave 2 up front, but also when you're going to cross the ball, you need 2 players to scissors. So one goes to the back, one goes to the front, and they're pulling the defenders apart. So as the midfield players, your Brian Robsons, your David Platt, your Colin Bells from years ago, they can come through from the midfield and score the goal.
Again, that to me, Doug, comes down to the way that football's being played these days. It's like I say, because it's that rigid system is stifling the creativity of players and the ability to get forward. Because they're having to drop so deep and you're only leaving one up top.
You're right, John. Creativity. That was another word Gary Neville used. Right. The way football's played now, it stifles the creativity in the flair players because they're told, right, that's your position. That's what I want you to do.
You stay in that 10, 15 yards of the centre circle and that's it.
Wow. Exactly.
Guys, could I just stop you for a second? I brought John on, John come on our show. You know he's been on before, and we could talk forevermore about what he brought on. And I don't know how we've gone around the houses for 40 minutes, but first of all, I wanted to say commiserations to Southampton, as we know, we're relegated the weekend, and really the demise of people coming up.
I'd rather it was them than us.
No, I'd rather it was Arsenal, but I don't think it's going to happen. But more than anything, John has done a bit of research on the points you needed to stay up, which Martin O'Neill once says the lucky number was 40 points. And get 40 points. Normally you were safe, apart from West Ham, and they went down with 42. So, John, can you what you think the average over the last 10 years, how it's gone down? And I think around about 24, 25 points now probably would keep you up.
Yeah, I mean, I say when you look at the points that the teams are on at the moment, currently, as the date. I mean, you've got Ipswich on 20, you've got Leicester on 17, and Southampton have obviously gone on 10. This compared to last year, you had Sheffield United again, they were just poor. They went down with 16 points and with a minus goal difference of 69 and conceded over 100 goals. Burnley went down on 24 and Luton on 26. And I'll say, if you go back over the past, about 10 years or so, I mean, I went back to like the 14-15 season where it was Hull, Burnley and QPR went down. And Hull went down on 35, Burnley went down on 33 and QPR went down on 30. And I mean, if you look at, you're talking like nearly half the points, for the bottom side now. So, I mean, the gulf is getting massive compared to what it used to be, I think. And I think the trouble
the question is, John, right, what can we do, right, or should we do to try and help the sides coming up? Straight away, they've had the money deficit that they've come up with. Yes, they get it when they go down, the parachute payment. I don't think as much as it was. But when they come up, what can they do? Because like Stu says, Stu and I have, we don't agree again yet on the financial fair play system. What do you think we can actually do to try and, or should we help the teams coming up, or will the teams coming up automatically go back down again now?
I think that's going to be the fate you always look at. You might get the odd team that will stay up, but I think across, when you look at the majority of teams that do come up, they literally do, as you say, drop straight back. And I don't think, unless something's looked at across the whole world of football, I don't think there's any way that's going to stop it, because the gulf just gets bigger and bigger. And I think the trouble being is, obviously, new clubs come up, and you've got a player who's got an interest in joining an average Premier League side who are going to pay him minimum wage, or he's going to go and join a team that's just come up for a massive wage. He's not going to go there, irrelevant, because he knows then next season he's going to be leaving there and finding another club again. Do you know what I mean? So these players become journeymen and they get themselves a better reputation. But I mean, say when they come up from the Championship, their hands are tied anyway financially from the constraints that are there already. And there's such a gap, in the integration of trying to change their tactics into the Premier League's tactics. It's a lot more physical, I think, in the Championship than it is in the Premier League. And I think that's half the problem. They find it difficult, and they can't be as direct and as physical as they were in the Championship. Because
John, can you tell us your thoughts? You've got like a thought about the collegiate system they have in America, where the lower teams get first pick of the transfers, whether it would ever work. But would you explain how you think it works, please?
It's a bit like when they do the American football players, isn't it? When they all get like rated, who gets the number one pick and stuff. And I think obviously you can trade around the way it works there. But I think the only way that any Premier League or Championship club has it coming up is they've done like a free. Any players that are free agents, they go into like a massive pool, and then they can get offered a certain amount, but get subsidised by the Premier League to help these teams coming up. And then if they're offered, I don't know, for argument's sake, they're offered 50 grand by, I don't know, say if Leeds come up this season, 50 grand by Leeds, and then you get someone like, I don't know, Man City offer them 150 grand just to go and sit on their bench and do nothing, or Chelsea offer them 200 grand to just bugger off on loan somewhere else.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be allowed to be done.
Yeah, but
they should help be subsidised by the Premier League. The Premier League turn and say, okay, right, they're offering them 100 grand. We'll pay, right, you pay them 50 grand a week, and we'll give them 20 grand a week from the Premier League like finances. But what we do is make it a big thing that we can help finance their appearance money, win bonus money, and help encourage them to sign for the other club. In that way, and not being funny, you've got teams that are coming up. They've got the average Joe Bloggs Championship players that are just not going to cut it. And it's a sad system, And as I say, if you can get these players to go to these clubs, they might have half a chance of battling and staying up.
John, would there have to be a wage cap for that system to work?
I think I spoke about on your show before when I said that's the only way that the Premier League would become equal again, is if there's a wage gap or wage cap, of players that if you're an international, you're in a certain bracket. If you're, on the verge of international, you're in that bracket, and then the next it just filters down. And if you do it like an age kind of bracket, the same as like in the working man. Do you know what I mean? If you're under 15, you earn X amount of pounds an hour. If you earn over 18, you earn X amount of pounds an hour. Do you know what I mean? And in that way, they're on a standard basic wage. Then players, when they actually go out and perform, it makes it more incentive for them. If they're winning games, they're going to get a bigger bonus.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, again, go back to the scenario, you're on 50 grand a week, you win a game, we'll pay you 30 grand a week. You score a goal, we'll give you another 20 grand a week. You're top of the league, we'll pay you 5 or 10 grand a week. Every week you're top of the league. Then that way,
that's that work, John, with midfield and the defence. Are you saying if it's a clean sheet?
No. They get their own perks. You know what I mean? They get clean sheet bonuses. Goalkeepers get clean sheet bonuses. Players get assist bonuses. There's so many ways you could do it. Do you know what I mean? A lot of players have it written in their contract. If they get 10 assists a season, they get 20 grand. You know, then another next 10, they get another 20 grand. Are you still not
making the gap bigger, John, saying that it only works in the Premier League? Is that not going to go down? You could have it
in the Championship, you do the same again. You do the same sort of tiering system. So if you've got players that have been in the Championship for more than 5 years, they go into another bracket. Do you know what I mean? And then they stay in that bracket. And of course, when they come up, they get into the lower tier of the Premier League wages. Again,
are you talking about, John, just the youth, or are you talking about in general? Even if we get
across the board, professional, the top international players as well. Because I'll say,
if that don't happen, John.
I said this on. I said this. What I'm going to say now on one of our other shows, right? The problem you've got, right, is the amount of money they are being paid. They do not identify with the fans anymore. How can I can't identify with a player that's earning 500 grand a week? I'm never going to get nowhere near that. Do you know, in all my lifetime, I would never have earned that sort of money. So how can you identify with somebody that's on 500 grand a week? Oh, like look at Grealish at Man City, the money he's on. Most of the time he's sitting on the bench. How can fans identify with that player anymore and want to cheer that player on? But you can't, because the average fan doesn't earn that sort of money, mate. Nowhere near that sort of money. And John's right, there needs to be a wage cap. And
yeah, but John, do you mean there's got to be a wage cap across the whole of European football or across the whole of world football?
World football, it's got to be done.
World football,
make it even. That'd be the only way it work, making it even across the world.
I mean, then West Ham, West Ham with Kudus, they've got three clauses for Kudus, right? If he's sold to an English club, it's 85 million. If he goes anywhere in Europe, it's 80 million. If he goes to Saudi, it's 120 million.
To be honest with you, I can see the Saudi system dying a bit like the Chinese system died. When China started bringing in all this money and getting Henderson, they got Gerrard. I watched a program the other day. Do you know the highest earner ever who's gone to the Chinese game? Believe it or not, was Carlos Tevez. He was on £615,000 per game. After time he didn't play, he went off injured, he went to Disneyland, he took over 40 million pound off of them. And he was one of the worst buyers they ever had. So I think the government have to get involved in, John, for that to work, surely.
I think the trouble is the Premier League's too far gone now for that to ever work. Do you know what I mean? But that's the way they should have done it. I mean, I know Jimmy Hill back in the day, he got rid of the wage cap on players.
Yeah.
But if you look back then, the players played for the love of the game. They weren't interested in money. They just wanted to play football. And I think that's the trouble nowadays. You've got too many players now not interested in football. They just want to earn the money. And I think it filters down to the academies now that they're thinking, they can be paid good money in the academies these days. And sometimes that's when their heads get turned and they're just interested in money. Do you know what I mean? You get players turned up in clothes and bags that some of us would never even dream of buying in a year. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
I think I sent the picture to you, didn't I, Dougie, of Mickey Antonio dressed in, I don't know what he was dressed in. He looked absolutely ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous, in his brown outfit with bright yellow socks and bright yellow Nike. He looked absolutely ridiculous. But at that get up he was wearing, probably sitting back 500-600 grand. Do you know? So how can you identify with someone like that? I can't identify with somebody like that who's earning that sort of money.
And the trouble is that
I mean, young Scholes ain't on a lot at the moment.
No, he's not.
No. But the trouble is that his head could be turned looking around the squad thinking, well, that'll be funny. Danny Ings on 125 grand a week. He never plays. Hang on, boss. I'm on 60 grand because I'm now regular. At least.
Yeah. And if he doesn't get decent money, he'll be off. He'll go.
Yeah.
He'll go somewhere where they will pay him decent money.
And nobody's going to get, and then he filters down to their youth team reserves and then he disappears.
Yep.
And that's what happens.
Think, John, let's say the top three at the moment are Leeds, Burnley, and Sheffield United. Let's say with a magic wand, let's say it's them three that come up, right? I do think Leeds, they have psychological issues, and I do believe, going back to what you said about football, I think if I was their manager now, I'd say, listen, boys, because they did this last year. It's the first game of the season. Go out and play like it's the first game of the season. Don't think it's itchy bum time, as what's the name used to call it, Ferguson. Because last night, I think it could have been 4-4, the game against Borough, but they ended up nicking it 1-0. But if they come up, who do you think is best equipped out of them three to stay up?
I'd say it's probably Leeds.
Yeah, I agree.
And the only reason I say that is because when they come up, they generally do tend to stay up. You know what I mean? They always hover for a couple of seasons. It just depends how they take and the players they got. If they don't lose any of their players they've got, they always do all right. I mean, Sheffield United have just got such a bad history. Every time they come up, they seem to just get walloped every week and disappear again. Yeah. And Burnley, again, I love the way they play football, and I love the mindset of the managers that they have, like Company when he bought them up, and Scotty Parker. But I just don't. They just don't put back in. That's the other thing. Leeds have got such a vast backing behind them. They've got so much money behind them anyway. I just don't think Sheffield United and Burnley can compete, really. I really don't.
Yeah, but look at Luton, John. Look where Luton are now. Luton's paid money. You know, I love Luton because whenever you went to Luton's ground, it was like walking through someone's back garden, weren't it? And you went in, and it's one of the weirdest grounds I think I've ever been.
That was the issue with them, is their ground was too small. And I think the trouble is they put too much money into it. And it's, you know, I don't know, it's they probably did invest too much money in their squad. I know they tried to keep the core of the championship players they had, but like I say, they just weren't going to cut it. And again, you look at Ipswich this season. Ipswich threw so much money at it, player-wise, it's backfired.
Yeah, I do think they've gone, haven't they? See, when James was on yesterday, I don't know if you've seen James' one. James was, you've got to sort out the front. With me, I could have a football team like I'd have a foundations of the house. I would make the foundations right. So, good goalkeeper. And I do think Potter has sorted out the defence, actually. To a degree, you know, we've still got problems, but we're a lot better than we was. But I think if you want that golden egg and you want to stay in the Prem, which is where the money is, you know, the TV rights, obviously you get a lot more money. I think you've got to invest, and I think you've got to try. And if you want to stay there, and if you want to take that risk, it looks like Leicester, when they go down, we spoke to a Leicester fan who told us they're possibly going to go in with minus points because they overspent in the championship. And if they go down, they're going to start with minus points. Whether they do or not is another thing.
Yeah, we've got to watch the time, Dougie. But you're saying they've got to invest. They can't invest. PSR don't let them invest anymore. You can't invest anymore. This is the problem. If, say, Leeds come up, and they get an investor come in that pumps in, say, 250 million, they're not going to be allowed to spend that money because they haven't earned that money. It's not part of the money they make. So it's a waste of time. PSR hinders it. It stops it stops these teams coming up and spending money. I think if a team can actually turn around and show in its books, we can spend 200 million and we're not going to go bankrupt. We're not going to go insolvent, or whatever the word is, right? We can still survive by spending that money. They should be allowed to spend that money.
Yeah, what do you think, John?
Yeah, I'm with Stu on that, to be fair. And it's like I say, so many clubs get their hands tied. And it's like, you know, you look at clubs like Bournemouth, again, something else I sent to you guys earlier on in the week was that video of Bournemouth's new training facilities.
Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
But the trouble is that goes against their financials, which is wrong, because it's not. That's an investment into the club. It's not helping them on the pitch as such. You know what I mean? It's not investment in a player. It's investing in their squad, their talent they've got. So they're trying to develop what they've got. But again, they're going to be punished for it, in a way, because again, that goes on their books. And you hear all these amazing facilities all around the country, and then you go to West Ham, we got Rush Green with our porta cabins, but it's.
I've got to tell you guys, this has been an absolutely amazing 55 minutes. It feels like we come on literally 10 minutes ago, and
we need to do a part 2.
John, would you be interested in coming on and doing a live, John?
Yes, mate. Yeah, it's just,
obviously,
evenings are a bit difficult, but
we're going to bring John on, and if we find Tony, we'll do a live. It's been just before we go, boys, I do want to say I disagree. I think if you look at the FA Cup this year, it shows you that the fair play rule is working. My main fear about clubs overspending is going out, losing their identity. And
but that's what I say. If a club can turn around, say Leeds come into the Premier League, and they can turn around to the hierarchy of the Premier League and say, look, here's our books. We can spend this money, and it's not going to impact us. It's not going to affect us. We're still going to stay solvent. We're still going to be there. They should be allowed to spend that money, not turn around and say, no, you can't spend that money because it's not 75% of your incomings, so you can't spend it. And as John said, it's like with Bournemouth. I feel they spent all that money on that training system, but it's going to impact with the PSL.
Yeah, but it won't, because on their infrastructure, Stu, that will start bringing through the kids and their better training facilities.
Yeah, but
guys, this has been the best show we have done, honestly.
I've
really enjoyed it. Next time Stuart comes on, I'm going to give him an happy pill, guys, because he's been really grumpy today. Mr. Bond, I've got to say, I've looked at the best picture of you for the entire show. The best you've ever looked. Now, John, it's been an absolute pleasure. What we'll do, John, is we'll sort it out with Tony, and if you could come on and do a live, and literally anything you want to talk about would be great. Honestly, I really have enjoyed this, and it's why I wanted to do this show, to debate things with friends, but have different opinions and don't agree on it. Guys, a couple of things. We are still supporting Hammers United. If you could go on there, sign up. There's still loads of things they're trying to get done at West Ham and in other grounds, trying to keep the prices down. Before we go, John, you got anything to say?
No, just thanks again for inviting me on. Really appreciate having a chat with you guys as always. So we're definitely up for the live ones. Let us know. I'm always about.
Well, normally my friend takes us out in a really nice way and says, stay this, stay that. What he's going to say today, I've no idea. Would you take us out, Stu, please?
Yeah, of course I will, mate. And I'll be sensible and I won't swear for you. All right. Take care. Stay safe. Stay lucky, my friends. Come on, you irons.
Thank you, guys.